Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Sharita Johnson James, and I'm the Director of Youth and Community Development at the CUNY Urban Food Policy Institute. We're so excited to have you all here with us today. Welcome to today's forum entitled Youth and Young Adult Leadership in the Healthy Food and Food Security Movement During COVID-19. So I'm sure that many of you agree with me when I say that there is so much power in the youth voice and in the strength of their leadership. Young people have been at the forefront of highlighting injustices and advocating for more equitable and democratic approaches to solving our nation's and our world's most serious problems. And their passion, commitment, and energy are forces to be reckoned with. Young people are often an untapped force for public health and food justice movements. However, in today's forum, we are highlighting organizations who realize the potential of young people and who have created a space for them to engage in food justice leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. The young people working with these organizations have risen to the challenge and have demonstrated that they have the skills, creativity, and zeal to address hunger in their communities and to help solve major food system problems. So today we'll be hearing from Bill Fink, Wendy Flores, Maya Marie, and Stephen Ritz. Rosita, if you can pull up their bio so that we can introduce them a little bit more. Okay, I will pull up their bios.
Yeah, we have them up in the chat. Please click on the link and you'll access the PDF with our speaker's short bios and some additional resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly read off from their bios. Wendy Flores, she holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Biological Science from Rutgers University and a Master's in Ecology, Evolution, and Conservation Biology from Columbia University. She is currently a co-facilitator at the Brotherhood Sister Soul, where she creates and facilitates workshops on environmental justice issues with young people. Wendy also manages the Brother Sisters Youth Farmers Market and the Food Empowerment Group in the Environmental Program. Thank you so much for being with us today, Wendy. Maya Marie is an urban farmer and food educator from Baltimore who's called Brooklyn her home for the past 10 years. She's invested in creating accessible spaces for Black and Brown people to learn about food and health that center their personal stories and food traditions. She believes that food education can be a vehicle for communities of color to engage with their history and health while tapping into their power for social change. Awesome. Thank you, Maya. Bill Fink is the Associate Executive Director for Development and External Affairs at Scan Harbor. He has used his experience in nonprofit fundraising, marketing, and communications for leading New York City-based human service, arts and culture, and arts service organizations. His work includes building relationships with individual donors, foundations, public funders, program partners, and board members. He oversees key partnerships with volunteers and various nonprofit program partners. Thank you for being here today, Bill. And last but not least, Stephen Ritz is an internationally acclaimed, award-winning educator, author of the best-selling book, The Power of a Plant, and founder of Green Bronx Machine. Known as America's favorite teacher, Stephen is responsible for creating the first edible classroom in the world. He and his students have grown more than 100,000 pounds of vegetables in the South Bronx, have been celebrated at the Obama White House 3 times, have been featured on the cover of Time for Kids, and are the subject of a new full-feature documentary, Generation Growth. Thank you all for being here today, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill, who will be speaking first.
Good morning. My slides. Not ready for the slides yet. Because just making sure that I'm speaking. Great. Okay. Thank you. Good morning. It's really an honor to be here among this group. And one of the reasons I say that is that here at Scan Harbor, it's only recently that our youth service organization and youth empowerment approach has gotten into the world of healthy food and healthy eating and the challenges around that. We are really recent in this. So being among this company is exciting. I'll just give you a little background of the agency and then how we built our program, the way that we have developed what we're doing. Scan Harbor is a very large youth service organization. We serve through 23 different sites in Harlem, East Harlem, and the South Bronx, serve over 7,600 youth a year. And our goal is really to work with the most at-risk families in the communities that we serve, to empower them and give them a voice to be able to participate in the development of the programming that we deliver. About 5 or 6 years ago is when we got into healthy food, and it was not because we had expertise in healthy food. It was because the approach that we were offered through a partnership that was developed through United Neighborhood Houses and the Laurie Tisch Illumination Fund essentially said, we want to identify how we can help NYCHA residents, and we serve a lot of NYCHA residents in East Harlem. How can we help NYCHA residents improve their access to healthy food? And the criteria wasn't that you were an expert in food, it was that you were good at partnering. It was that you collaborated with your community, and it was the community that would develop the ideas that would go forward to try to address the problems. And that we knew that we could do very well. So the way that we worked our development, and this also goes for how we eventually launched the program and how we are now sustaining the program, is to make sure it is always a resident-driven initiative. So it's the residents that we work with and the youth that we serve that are the ones that are defining the challenges in terms of access to healthy food. And then they are the ones that define what are the potential solutions and how can we implement those solutions in partnership with our community. So everything that we've done has come directly from our residents. And in the process, it really was the development of an understanding is that they saw the need for more places where people could meet and eat together and learn about healthy food, improve their cooking skills, and have a space to talk about healthy food and improving access in the community. And the methods that our residents decided were going to be the best way to do this were really two things. The first was an intergenerational hands-on cooking lab where families would get together and do recipes in our sites. And the other was pop-up cafes. The idea where residents would define what the menu was, define what the cafe and the pop-up event was going to look like. And then, you know, our job really became providing the expertise in terms of culinary training and nutrition education and all the sort of back office work so that our residents could get the training to do this. The way that we develop leadership is by seeing youth who are consistently attending and interested in these activities, and we offer them the opportunity to get a higher level of training, to become more involved, and then ultimately to take on the leadership of these events. So the goal is really not that we're going to continue to build this program by training staff. We're going to continue this program by making sure that the residents have the skills and the ability to really deliver the programming themselves. And like I said, continue to define the goals and the activities. I think that's kind of the basic approach that we're using. So I wanted to just put up a few slides so I can talk over, just, you know, illustrate some of the stuff that we've done over the past couple of years. Okay, so you can just go ahead and click through these, but these are intergenerational cooking labs that occurred at our NYCHA sites here in East Harlem. You know, the idea is really making sure that the recipes are either ones that we know are healthy or that residents bring to us and suggest, wouldn't this be a good idea for the lab? And sometimes what we do is work on that to try to see if we can make it more healthy and improve the nutritional value in terms of what's being done. So again, this is where we're identifying youth that are consistently participating so that they can get training and learn more about how to become a part of running the program. I'm getting hungry just looking at these right now. So the next set of slides, I think there's one more of the labs, another one. So these are some of our first youth leaders. So this is one of the pop-up events where, again, people that we trained started doing pop-up smoothie cafes. So this is one that is part of an after-school program. Smoothies allow a lot of creativity in terms of the recipe and a lot of experimentation with fruits and vegetables that maybe people don't eat. Um, and the last thing is really, this goes into what I'll talk about later, is partnerships. We brought some of our youth over to Randall's Island, and they did pop-up smoothie events at Randall's Island, just across the river. And this gave them the opportunity to, on some occasions, serve 300, 400 people in a couple of hours. And so it really created a real sense of energy and bonding among the kids, and kind of built their understanding of what it takes to pull off these events if they're going to go outside the community. So I'm looking forward to more of a conversation. Again, thanks for having me. And I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Bill. It was awesome hearing about all the work that you've done, the intergenerational program that you've done with youth and older individuals, and how you've given them opportunities to engage more in leadership. That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing. Next, we are going to hear from Wendy Flores from the Brotherhood Sister Soul.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Sharita. So yeah, I just wanted to send everyone some love and light and support during such challenging times. So grateful to be here. I'm really excited to be talking to everyone about some of the work that we've been doing here at Brotherhood Sister Soul. And you can actually start the presentation. Thank you. So yeah, just to reiterate, like Sharita said, my name is Wendy Flores, and I am the Environmental Program Facilitator at BROSIS. And while I'll be focusing a lot on what we've been doing during COVID, for those who don't know BROSIS too much, we've been actually doing work supporting the community and supporting our young people for the last 25 years. You can go on to the next slide. So the BROSIS, we started in 1995, and our whole basis was young people. We work with young people aged 8 to 22, and we provide various wraparound services catered to their growth, making sure that they're working on leadership development, learning about dismantling sexism and misogyny, teaching them about political education, Pan-African and Latinx history, and global awareness. Um, and in conjunction with that, we also run the environmental program, which is the one that I co-facilitate. And a big part of that has been introducing young people to food justice. You can go on to the next slide. So together with the environmental program and the BROSIS wide organization, we sought to do various things to make sure that our community was getting greater access to food. So the first thing I'll be talking to you a little bit about is the food distribution that we're currently running. And the next thing I'll be talking to you about is the farmers market that we have every Wednesday that's also been going around since the past 6 years. And then I also want to highlight a partnership that we have with the Corbin Hill Food Project. And these are the three things that I'll be discussing today. So for the food distribution, we really have to thank a lot of our partners, our board members, our sponsors, some of the organizations who helped us get the meals that we had to distribute has been Grow NYC, Food Bank, and the Food Bank, and the West Harlem Development Corporation. With our board members and our sponsors, we've been able to distribute 250,000 meals to our community members and to our young people that we serve. And on average, that's been about 300 to 350 families served per week. And that all of these numbers are reflected from the 27 distributions that we've had since March. And in addition to that, we're currently fundraising to purchase turkeys to distribute to our community members and our young people so that they have a wholesome and an appropriate Thanksgiving meal. So the work continues. We're still having our food distribution. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And the next, in addition to our food distribution, we also have a farmers market. Um, the farmers market, as I said earlier, it's been in existence for the last 6 years or so. And while I manage the farmers market, it's the young people that are the face of the farmers market. We have young people who, when they start their internship in the summertime, some of them start with me in our food empowerment focus, in our food empowerment core group in the environmental program. Through here, we're able to provide the community with fresh and local produce that they might not necessarily get at the supermarket. Everything is either grown in New York State or New Jersey. Um, and apart from that, we also have coupons that we distribute to the community members. These coupons are called Health Bucks. For those who are not aware, this is a resource that's provided to us through the NYC Health. And it's been very useful for the community because for anyone who's using EBT, which is a government assistance program to get food, for every $5 that they use at the farmers market, they receive a $2 coupon, which will further help them in buying and purchasing more food. And then we also have various activities that are catered to health and nutrition information that they could play with the young people. And just by participating, they also earn a health book. And this is all run by the young people. And it's really helps cultivate their leadership skills. Here, I just wanted to highlight one young person who's been working with me since the summer of 2020. Her name is Crystal, and she's 14 years old. And it was her first experience working, and her first experience working in a food justice related environment. And it just showed how much young people know. She was a beginner, but she's picked it up very quickly. She's from the community and she knows what the community needs. She knows how to communicate with them. And it's been a really great experience for her. And we're just seeing her grow. And this is just one young person. And, we've had around 10 people in this year in the food justice core group, but we always have a group of students every single year. You can go on to the next slide. And of course, I also wanted to highlight the Corbin Hill Food Project. It's a partnership that we've had with them for a couple of years now. So for those who don't know, the Corbin Hill Project is a farm share program where you pay for produce and you pick it up the week after. It's been it's a great partnership, one, because it gives people an opportunity to diversify how they're getting their produce. Instead of just going to the same supermarket, they can either get it from the farmers market or they could purchase from the farm share program. And then also, I wanted to highlight that during the pandemic, well, before the pandemic, Corbin Hill has various sites throughout New York City, but because of the pandemic, many of them had to be closed, but except for two, one of them being the food distribution site at the Brotherhood Sister Soul. So we've been able to have them here, thankfully, for our community. And there are some community members who use EBT who are participating in this in the farm share. And when you are using EBT, you're able to purchase at a much lower rate. And then in addition to that, since the pandemic, there's been an increase in people using PEBT, which is a pandemic EBT. So just showing how the community members have been affected by the pandemic, but because of the PEBT, they've been able to use that to purchase local and fresh food because of Corbin Hill. And I also wanted to highlight that, sorry, one more thing, highlight that with Corbin Hill, another reason why it was such a great partnership is because those young people who aged out of our organization, who graduated to go to college or either to go straight to the workforce, they've been able to get a full-time or part-time position at Corbin Hill. So again, another way for them to be in the green collar job industry, learning about food justice, learning why it's important to have access to food. So we have Corbin Hill to bring our young people to. And then again, with the farmers market, people who graduated, they've also been able to help me out in the during the markets as well. I also wanted to give a shout out. We've currently have a collaboration with Carrie Mae Weems, who is a contemporary artist working with the Peace Poets, who consist of alum from our program, to create a health campaign consisting of a PSA and billboards that are highlighting how COVID-19 has impacted these frontline communities, the people who live in our neighborhoods. And you can see their billboards and their PSAs at the Brooklyn Museum, and also they're shown at our plaza in front of the Brotherhood Sister Soul. And they've been doing a lot of amazing work to highlight this issue. To close, I wanted to share a quote that the Brotherhood Sister Soul holds very dear. It's a quote that you could find in the back of our shirts. And it's a quote that we want the young people to embrace and to think about so that they understand the importance of working in a community, the importance of a collective voice. Because when you are together, you go far as opposed to going by yourself, or you go faster. So the quote being, "The moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out," by James Baldwin. And I think that's the last slide. So thank you so much. And I look forward to your questions and comments at the end of the panels.
Thank you, Wendy. That was great. And I love how you ended with that quote. That was awesome. It was great hearing about all the awesome work that the Brotherhood Sister Soul did throughout the pandemic, how much food that you gave out to families in your community. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Now we're going to hear from Maya Marie, who is an urban farmer and food educator. She also is the assistant farm manager at Kingsborough Community College Urban Farm. Welcome, Maya, and thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Good morning. I'm sorry, my voice is like cracked. Thanks for joining us on this delightfully rainy day, especially around the topic around empowering youth in the food system, particularly around urban ag. Again, my name is Maya Marie. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm the assistant farm manager, food education coordinator here at the farm. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But I really want the main part of this presentation to be highlighting the students who are like the heart and the soul and the hands of what gets done here at KCC. So I'm going to share my screen with y'all so that you can see the presentation. Cool. So if y'all can see this, this is a sky level view of the farm. It's kind of old because there's been some other adjustments to the space over the past 8 or 9 years. So KCC Urban Farm is a quarter-acre farm that's situated here at Kingsborough Community College, which means that the population we work with includes young adults between the ages of 18 to 24, but often there's a intergenerational makeup due to the fact that there are some students who are getting started with their education perhaps a little later in their life. So I just want to preface that. And yeah, I hold kind of two hats here at KCC Urban Farm. As the assistant farm manager, my work mainly is centered around training our students in agroecological and sustainable farming practices, while also managing other day-to-day operations. And as the food education coordinator for our Bring It Home program, I create programming, curriculum, cooking workshops, and demos that support students in developing a deeper relationship to their food, whether that food is like fruits and vegetables from the farm or pantry staples they get from the market. My job is mainly to meet students where they're at in developing their cooking skills, understanding nutrition concepts, and understanding the histories of the food they're familiar with or are new to, so they can figure out what their definition of food looks like for themselves, their family, their communities. So before getting into our present work, since I love history, I wanted to give a little bit of backstory on the farm's beginnings to give some context into how it's evolved into what it is today. So before I was working at the farm and before we even had a food education program, this is what the farm looked like. It was an empty, unused lot at the college that between the years 2011, 2012, it became the site of development from an outside organization called Project EATS, which some of you may be familiar with, which is underneath the Active Citizen Project. And so the farm initially was somewhat open to students, but it was mainly being used to produce fruits and vegetables for local restaurants. And while students were allowed to volunteer, they weren't really taking the vegetables like they are able to now. And they weren't really being paid for their labor. So flash forward to the fall of 2012, Hurricane Sandy happened, and the farm had been established, but a lot of the components that were existing there were either destroyed. So this is a picture of the farm in 2012. And then after a lot of restoration from students who were interested, as well as some new staff members, the farm was able to get back and operating. And by 2013, they were starting to hire student aides to come work on the farm along with the staff there. And then also beginning to incorporate some more integration of the farm being involved with the students' learning experience, rather than it being something that was largely benefiting an outside organization. So because there was concerns about the saltwater damage from the hurricane, the farm then got turned over to the school. So it was around 2013, 2014, that when students were getting hired in paid positions, here's a photo of me way back in the day as a student when I was a culinary arts student at the college, and me and other students were preparing for a cooking demo, because one of the main formats, one of the main services that the farm provides or offers to students at the college is to be able to pick up free vegetables that are grown here. And this was kind of the early beginnings of students getting to lead demos, and to be able to connect with their peers, and also learn how to use these vegetables that we were growing on the farm that students might be familiar with depending on their life experiences, but oftentimes are kind of needing a little bit of support around like preparing them. So this is really important and kind of setting the foundation for what the farm does now with students. Because the farm manager at the time and the farm educator really encouraged the students and the people on the crew to take leadership in different aspects of the farm, whether that was leading demos, students doing talks on sustainability around the college, and things like that. So fast forward to today, or really last year, because we're not wearing masks. And the past couple of years as becoming a staff person, alongside with the newer farm manager and the farm educator, we continued building on cultivating leadership in our students at the farm by providing them space for them to both practice the hands-on components, as well as supporting them in developing their political analysis that we believe helps give students a deeper, greater depth to the work that they'll do, whether they become farmers or cooks or want to work in other parts of the food system, creating a learning environment where they can learn about those different aspects, and also see where they see themselves fitting. So this is a picture of our usual farmers kind of market situation at the farm, where we'll set up tables for students to come on campus and pick up free produce. It's looked pretty different this year with COVID, and I'll get a little into that in a couple seconds. But this is how typically we would set up, and in the corner you can also see me over with doing like a demo with a student so that students can come pick up, and then they can have a taste of like a sample of what is growing on the farm. So the farmers, the farmers market setup that we have, we call it the free veggie distribution, is where students can come pick up whichever veggies they like to take home. And it's led by our students, whoever's working on the crew during that year, so that they get that practice of engaging with their peers or in the public, as well as like, sharing what they know or they enjoy about what they're growing and getting to connect with folks. So like bridging that disconnect. Sometimes it can happen. And through the Bring It Home program, students are able to learn about different preservation methods, whether it's preserving like pickles or root vegetables they were growing, and then giving them the skills if they want to lead those types of workshops and things like that. So here's some shots from some of the workshops that we've done, either ones that I've led with students or ones that students have been a part of. And throughout the years. But like I was speaking about earlier, one of the really important parts of the programming at Kingsborough at KCC Urban Farm is also developing students' political analysis. So we often, the staff will support students in learning about those topics around things like Indigenous Peoples Day, and also getting to like cook and create stuff and things of that sort, where a lot of this has gone mostly virtual this year, but kind of giving a picture of how it's looked in the past. And the hands-on component of the farm training for students has looked like teaching them about growing food from seed all the way through the harvest. So there's the Bring It Home program where we're talking about cooking with the food, but then also students who, whether they're on the crew or in the past when we would have farm tours with the farm educator, and they're coming with a professor and a group of students from a class on campus to learn about it, they're able to see seeds being sown. And then we have a student here who's leading other students in what she was taught last year and how to do this process, which is called propagation. So it's that really important thing that I think both Wendy and Bill were talking about, and students developing the leadership to then do it, what the teaching or sharing that knowledge with their peers. And then from seed, also getting it into the ground, they're learning about those skills, to like possibly the end of the process, which is in this other picture, they're building compost. So kind of like seeing that closed loop, getting to see that in real time as they're working on the farm, and being able to envision that as a possibility in the real world, like how we can create food systems that are circular. So something that's really important part of the work that we do with students. And then these are more recent pictures. So this year with COVID, we've still continued to produce the fruits and vegetables for students at the farm. That's still our main focus. It's become like our primary focus, since a lot of students have a need both for their families and themselves to have fresh produce that is not only low cost, but from us, it's free. So students this year, instead of coming to the campus, since the campus is closed, we would have them sign up, and we partnered with an organization called the Brooklyn Packers to then pick up the produce from the farm, pack it, and any students pack the number of bags of students that had signed up for that week. And then students were able to pick up veggies off-site. But still, a large part of the work being done on the farm has been done by the students that we had on staff this year, who are the ones who are picking the veggies, bagging, like putting them in little bags that will then go into the bigger bags, as well as leading a lot of our social media like farm education components too. So these are some of the ways that we've transferred from what a normal year would look like, where we're having a lot of folks coming on campus, to trying to bring the farm education along with the veggies to students and other CUNY students, both KCC and CUNY students, getting that information, that knowledge, and that education. So this is a screenshot of one of the videos that a student was a part of and leading on making gumbo with some of the okra on the farm. So this is one of our students, Jade, who's really amazing. And that's just one example of how we've like transferred the students getting to engage with other peers, or like folks who typically are able to come to the farm, by creating videos, creating informational posts on our Instagram, and sharing that with students, as well as through like our newsletter and things of that sort. But yeah, so this is a picture from when we went on a field trip up to Rocksteady last year with last year's crew. and kind of giving an idea of the folks who are usually on the farm. And yeah, that's like our primary focus is uplifting Black and Brown young adults who are either in college or continuing college to get to see urban farming, as well as getting to see other types of farms and formats that are possible. And so that they can, you know, envision how they want to be a part of the food system in the future. But that's all I'll speak on that. And I'm excited to talk with you all later. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maya. That was a great presentation. Hearing about all the awesome work that Kingsborough Community College Urban Farm is doing and how you've been able to provide free food to students during the wake of COVID and how you've given them opportunities for leadership. That's awesome. Next, we're going to hear from Stephen Ritz from Green Bronx Machine. I think you're ready to go.
So good morning, everybody. To the 97 of you out there today, buenos dias, and let's get popping. Thanks for being here. For those of you who don't know, here's a little bit about our work.
These are our shops, our supermarkets, our windows, our doors, our homes, and our yards in the poorest congressional district in America. This is our soil. Here, we are growing something greater for children who love to learn, to make, to nurture, and to taste. This is Green Bronx Machine.
So I'm gonna move quick because we are live from the Bronx, the home of the Sustainable Gangsters, and this is a youth-driven movement. So I'm looking to all the young people. I'm looking at Wendy and want to say thank you, Brotherhood, Sister Soul. I learned how to farm on your farm back in 2003, and we have gone forward. For those of you who don't know, this is what public housing in the South Bronx looks like. 45 buildings that look like this, 18 blocks to a subway, and the highest grossing Domino's per square foot in America. Welcome to the Terror Dome. I like to say here in the South Bronx, we grow vegetables, and what's your superpower? And literally, these are our kids. I'm looking at Bill. Bill, these are some of your kids too. So I really do want to acknowledge the amazing program and support we received from SCAN. But this is Green Bronx Machine in action, the art and science of growing vegetables aligned to Common Core and next generation science standards, which is really growing something greater. Here we grow food aligned to all academic indicators on a daily basis and grow, cook, and share our way into amazing good health. I want to be fair with time, so I'm going to skip some of the videos. But for those of you who are embarking on the work, listen, you young people, I am the world's biggest accidental success. And I got here today because number one, I just stayed true to my goals. My presentation is stuck. Go figure. For whatever, I've learned from my mistakes. I stay motivated and I stay the course. At the heart of what we do, which is totally replicable, is a curriculum, which is the art and science of growing vegetables, aligned to science, math, social studies, language arts, computer science. It is totally interactive, totally engaging. Oop, computer problems again. Maybe I'm going too fast. Let's try stop share. My whole computer has gone kaput. Let's see, here I am. Stop. Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes, we can see and hear.
So I'm just gonna keep chugging along here. I really want to get to the post-COVID stuff, but here in the Bronx, we've helped move attendance, targeted attendance from 40% to 93% with 100% graduation rates. And through the art and science of growing vegetables, real hands-on project-based learning, we've had an increase school-wide of 45% passing rates in school tests. Bill, you know the data better than anybody. And here at CS55, our results speak for themselves. But 100,000 pounds of vegetables later, my favorite crop are the 95 people who look like you out there, young people who want to grow something greater. people who understand how to take, broken down and abandoned, big box businesses and turn them into freestanding urban farms. I'm proud that Green Bronx Machine is partnered towards 2,200 living wage jobs. I like to say dreamers, believers, and achievers, from disruption to delivery. We've been able to partner with people around the world and create our curriculum in multiple languages and connect with students online to grow something greater all around the world. I'm going to skip that video and just highlight on some of the amazing things that are happening right here in the Bronx in front of our school. Ideally, scaffolding will be coming down, but these, Bill, are your kids. These are our kids, and we are growing something greater. And most importantly, when you teach children about nature, you teach them to nurture. And when we teach children to nurture, we as a society collectively embrace our better nature. This farm, again, largely inspired by what I learned at Brotherhood Sister Soul, was on an abandoned street. This used to be 400 cars. It is now the site of day camp and countless days of service and joy for children and the entire community. So I like to say, literally, we are growing something greater here in the South Bronx, both academically, socially, and emotionally. And then, bam, COVID happened. And there was no more food. So organizationally, what we did is instantly, we realized that for the next 6 weeks, once COVID hit, there would be tons of food in the pipeline that really had nowhere to go. No restaurants being closed, retail being closed. So we pivoted and started learning how to redistribute that food that was already being grown and redirect it right here to the Boogie Down BX. And literally food that was going to be wasted was wound up delivered, peak of freshness, exposing children and families to what needed to be done. We started grab and go delivery services right outside of the school and got all kinds of people involved. And I'm proud to say that this humble little organization just passed the 100,000 pound mark of food delivery. We now have turned our school in COVID this year into a pantry. We even have guys like my main man, Brother Mike, who is doing wheelchair delivery for countless people across the neighborhood. So it's really about looking inwards sometimes instead of outwards and mobilizing people, because we are the ones we are waiting for. I couldn't be more proud of what's going on. This year, we put in 100,000 seedlings across the Bronx, building farms and doing all kinds of socially distant planting days with children, getting them outside, keeping them in the soil, keeping them distant. And I honestly believe the only reason I did not come down with the virus is A, because of the copious amount of vegetables I eat, and because I'm constantly digging in soil with all of these children, and to think, this is what we are doing here in the South Bronx. Remarkably, we've even built farms 10 stories underground. Watch this. This is 10 stories underground in a basement in Manhattan, built in a day. And literally what we're doing is growing food. And by the end of this summer, this is what we had growing, which is pretty cool. From our little corner of the globe, both my home and the classroom, we've literally been able to connect with thousands of students around Zoom cooking, and then realized the best way to equalize the playing field was to deliver vegetables and make them accessible on Tuesdays, and then get everybody online to cook on Wednesdays. I want to be mindful of the time. Ooh, I'm doing fast. And to think that, our program made the National Council for Science and the Environment for Building a Nation of Problem Solvers was pretty awesome. I'm going to skip over the pictures of our garden. Just, mindful that here we are in the midst of Black Lives Matter. And for each and every one of you, education, not asphyxiation. In so many ways, our communities are being choked to death, if not the residents themselves. So it's time to rally and vote with your fork, vote with your mouth, vote with your wallet, and vote on the 4th, please. This isn't Photoshop. This is a sample farm where we are using 90% less water, 90% less space, and growing food and money in 24 days. We're not working harder in the South Bronx. We are working smarter. I'm proud that Green Bronx Machine just debuted the first foster care run commercial farm in America, in Appalachia, in the heart of coal country. And it's a solar powered farm that is actually profitable. So I like to say, All of us can be ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And that's why we do the work that we do, because a rising tide lifts all boats. I want to skip quickly and go through some. I'm just going to move through some of this because it's hard to believe that a guy who was 300 pounds wound up becoming a champion of change and bringing kids to the White House. And the president himself actually cited our work. And I just really want to focus on, to those people who don't know, this work is also really applicable around the world. I'm proud to have built the first net positive school and food system in the middle of the desert. That's not Photoshop. That's actually a school in Dubai where we are growing 1 million pounds of food a month. Pardon me? You guys can see me, correct?
Yes, we can see you and see your slides.
Great, thank you. This has just been a remarkable odyssey for all of us. I like to say that it is entirely possible here in the new millennium to do something amazing with children. And this is a video that we made right here in our classroom that shows what happens when you grow food with people. And, this is the beauty of life unfolding before you. And there it is. I'll move quick there because I want to share with the young people and the next generation of advocates that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And the degree to which we resist injustice is the degree to which we are free. So as the world's most unlikeliest farmer, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to be great. And I urge each and every one of you to do something today that your future self will thank you for. Along the way, we've debuted a documentary that I want to share with you. It's called Generation Growth. It's a short 3-minute trailer, which I know is going to be the subject of questions. So I'll share with you what our new thing is, and then we can break.
I'm planting cucumbers.
But this is the power of public education.
Planting basil.
Do you like basil?
I've never had it.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. You go in my classroom and you ask children where do they get their food. They say the gas station, the drugstore. That's appalling to me that children are shopping for food in a drugstore. We're seeing all kinds of health anomalies in communities of poverty.
We got the bodegas with 5 different types of pork rinds, but no fresh fruit.
There's a strong linkage between having poor diet, having poor health outcomes, and then just affecting your quality of life across so many different dimensions.
Zip code and skin color should not determine outcomes in life. I'm out to change that. Hello, Toledo! How many of you would be excited about having a tower garden in your school? I had this vision. I could teach children if I put this magical garden in the middle of a classroom and built school around it.
Stephen Ritz and his Green Bronx machine are opening young minds to science, nutrition, and wellness.
When you cultivate a palate, you are changing the trajectory of those children's lives and taste buds forever. You like the lettuce?
Yeah, I like the lettuce.
For me, the greatest resource in the world is the untapped potential in communities like mine.
Parents are sending us their best kids. They're not keeping the good ones at home.
Can you put the chair down? Can you put your arms through your shirt? Maybe that'll help bring some brain power.
I hope my son can see past the hoop. When he goes home, he tells me about the garden or what he's tried and what we should try. He has 1,000,001 suggestions.
What's happening in the inner city and beyond, a lot of that has to do with food, period.
Children want to be engaged and involved in something. So sometimes you gotta pull a little magic out of the hat. You can hug it, but not too tight.
My favorite subject is science. I'm a quick thinker.
How did you do today?
Great.
All right, good.
I'm exhausted. I'm emotionally depleted. But my heart is full.
Oh my God.
Once you see it the first time, you're inspired. But the fact that you keep seeing it over and over again, how lives are being changed, then you're motivated. Something special is happening here.
This is how change happens. Access to healthy food, one person, one community at a time.
You can't rush growth. You can't go from seed to harvest without care and cultivation in the middle.
So that's it in a nutshell. You know, I always love Reverend Al. He says no justice, no peace, but we taught him no justice, no peace. Again, I think for some reason I'm having some kind of technical difficulty here. I don't know why, but I guess I'll just stop screen sharing and get out of the presentation and just say hello to everybody and thank you for your patience. And please get out and check out Generation Growth and let's make EPIC happen. That's what this is about. So I hope you guys can still see me. I don't know if I've lost you, but
yes,
God bless you and make EPIC happen. Let's take it away. And Bill, those are your kids in the movie. So it's kind of cool.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We apologize for all of the technical difficulties, but we got the gist of your presentation, which was awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing Generation Growth. I haven't yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So now we're going to go into the discussion part of our forum. So if you have any questions, I believe the chat is now open and you can send your questions to Morgan Ames, who was one of the co-hosts for today, and she'll direct the questions to make sure that the appropriate panelist gets them. So we do have some questions that we prepared from the Institute to ask our panelists today. So I have some questions for the group that I'm gonna start off with. Okay, so all of your initiatives and projects have been awesome to hear about. They're super exciting, super engaging, and super innovative. What have been the key factors or keys to success for your initiatives? Any of you can just jump in.
Yeah, I'll just say, I guess I'll just start off by saying community is so important. I know that a lot of us touched up on that already. Just seeing every presentation, like we have young people, we have staff who are like their mentors, and I think just that sense of being in a family or in a community is super helpful in ensuring that young people continue coming back. It's important to make them feel empowered. And honestly, we always see people who age out of our program always come back. And that's because they really value the staff here at Brosis. They value the work that they've done. And also having ownership of the things that they've done too makes it come back. So I would say community and having ownership of the projects and the tasks that they had in their whatever organization.
Awesome, awesome.
I just would amplify some things that have already come up. The idea of meeting people where they are. As we grew the program and established the activities at different community centers, which are embedded in the NYCHA housing developments where we are in East Harlem, you know, one size does not fit all. The different centers are different places with different cultures and different communities. And so just being really aware that is the situation and using that to your advantage, because you know you have unique opportunities in each place. I would say also both working with youth and adults, Stephen hit on this a lot, really emphasizing how youth and communities of color are being targeted by unhealthy food. It is you know, something, the more you educate, I mean, you know, people are more savvy in general these days about how they're being marketed to. But particularly we found with teens, just giving them the opportunity to learn more about that and engage in anti-bad food marketing practices and things like that. Just, you know, always hit on healthy food, but continue to remind people about how the unhealthy eating habits are, you know, not an accident.
Yeah.
You know, can I get Bill? I think Bill hit on something really critical. Food justice is racial justice. It's just that simple. And I think what makes all of our programs out there, number one, is we put unity back into the community. It is about putting the human back into being. But we grow something that is absolutely essential, and that is food. because food is nourishment and food is a universal language. Ironically, communities like ours, we are living in a land of the 99-cent menu subsidized by government and $200 sneakers that are coming from somewhere else. But when you put children into the equation and move them from being consumers to producers, you change everything. And I'm looking at so many heroes out here on the screen. And the simple thing is this: if children grow food, they eat food. The USDA research indicates that children who have access to fresh food in school eat 47% more fresh fruits and vegetables. And that is the most important thing we can do for them. So that's it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. Maya, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would also add that, like similar to what I said earlier about like meeting students where they're at, making it as accessible as possible. I feel like, especially the students here at CUNY, you know, are already facing a lot of challenges and getting access to food or getting access to information or like educational resources. So I think lowering as many barriers as we can, it's like, you know, and outreaching as much as we can to students. You know, it's a little bit challenging during COVID with like technology and things like that, depending on what they have access to. But I feel like, you know, listening to students in whatever ways that we can and hearing what they need and what challenges they're coming up against, so that we're creating programs and resources that they can actually use. So, you know, if students are saying like, you know, signing up on this form is really difficult, or this is like a lot, being receptive to that and being like, how can we make this more simple so that they have access to these resources?
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Yeah, definitely trying to be as much as adaptable and as flexible as much during this time is super imperative and important. What are some challenges that you have faced with engaging young people during the COVID pandemic?
Some things that come up to me are, well, some of the same issues that our community struggles with, you know, the same community that we're providing food for are the same struggles that our young people face. You know, it's their families that are being affected by COVID-19 directly. They're the ones that are having a lack of food in their homes. And it's really why made them rise up to the occasion to participate, take on that leadership role, because they see it firsthand in their own families. And then also in addition to that, you know, with school being like unstable right now, like we're at a virtual time, but sometimes some young people don't have access to internet, they don't have access to computers. Things aren't in a routine as it used to be. So it's just struggling to kind of like find that normalcy during this time. Yeah. In the midst of, you know, trying to like step up and be a leader.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd say pretty similarly for our programming too. It's like especially since a lot of like the students they're in college or they're transferring to other colleges, and then just like the day-to-day dynamics, constantly needing to adapt. So like that they're great at adapting and adjusting, but there are also sometimes that are really difficult, especially if they're low income or like Wendy was saying, folks don't have internet, which is wild to imagine in 2020 in a city that has a lot of resources, but a lot of young adults or in their families, they don't have internet and often rely on being able to come to campus to use those resources. So when they can't, it can be a challenge for them to even engage with the programming and trying to, but still doing their best in the best way possible, but it can present a really big challenge.
I'm sorry. One of the things that we've been looking at, and Bill, you'll appreciate this, is literally taking our gardens and turn them into solar-powered hotspots. So literally, instead of going to Starbucks, instead of going to a place where you can't get internet, you need to go back to Mother Earth where you can get it, where we merge the Green New Deal with the Screen New Deal. Because it is mind-numbing to me, the disconnect. The greatest amount of disconnectivity and non-connectivity is in communities here where we need it the most. Because that digital divide, if you will, and that achievement gap continues to grow. So the best way to do it is by marrying health and opportunity aligned with access to information along with healthy, fresh food. Because the best way to increase your immunity is just to simply eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. And sadly, the places that have the least likely access to it are communities that look like ours. And, you know, I challenge each and every person out there to stop celebritizing food. You know, we've got to stop having the official hot dog, the official soft drink, the official this, the official that. It's time we really start calling out people and celebrities who are selling our children down the drain, you know, for endorsements. It's a real issue with me. And I think when you give children that voice, you change everything.
For sure. I agree. So in speaking of developing youth leaders and giving them opportunities to participate in food system leadership, what advice do you have for young people who are looking to get engaged in this type of work, but don't really know where to start or maybe even a little bit timid?
You know, I would say first and foremost, you know, trust your ability to find partners and mentors and organizations that are open to supporting you. You know, on the institutional level, when we built this program, we needed a lot of different experts and a lot of different partners to even know what the questions were, you know, and then once we started building programs, what are we trying to accomplish? What are the goals? How are we measuring all these things? And so just, you know what you don't know and be okay with that, because there are people that are willing to jump in and help you. I think that, you know, it's really about, if you want to take an initiative, that's the most important thing. And there's a lot of information out there that other people are going to be able to give you when you see that you're activated.
Yeah, for sure.
If they don't offer you a seat at the table, stand next to it and build your own, damn it. That's what this is about. That's what this is really all about. We are the ones we're waiting for. Make no doubt about it. The power of youth today is absolutely mind-numbing. So find your niche. Don't be afraid to fail. They call it Formula 409 because the first 408 didn't work. So there's a reason, you know, be persistent, be resistant, and vote.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in?
I would say yes to all of that. Definitely, it can be intimidating when you're first starting, whether it's like urban ag or food, or just that you want to get involved in some way, or politics. I would say what has really helped me, as a young adult, is like just trying stuff, just asking questions, reaching out to folks, like, you know, maybe it's if you have time, like volunteering or just sending an email to someone. And it can kind of start to get in the practice of like breaking through that nervousness, and it might not be perfect. It's very likely might be terrible the way that you approach someone, but at least you try and you get that experience and you can learn how to adjust. But I would say most folks involved with food or politics, or at least the folks that I know who have been mentors to me, are very willing to share information. If they don't know, they can direct you to someone. But also, like Stephen was saying, if you feel like people aren't receptive to your ask, then you can just start something. And you know, there's Google and YouTube now. So if you feel like you're not getting the information that you need or want, or you're feeling stuck, there's definitely information or resources out there that you can build on and create something for yourself. Yeah, you don't have to hold up waiting for other folks to support you in what you want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So Maya, I kind of have a follow-up question for you. So recently our Institute, along with a few of our partners, released a report on the status of food insecurity among CUNY College students. And so you working at Kingsburg Community College, what do you think other CUNY schools can learn from your university and the urban farm when it comes to launching food security initiatives for students?
I think that's a really good question. And I have appreciated a lot of the studies that are coming out and really putting like numbers and data to what students are experiencing in real time. because it's important. It can be hard to illustrate if you're not interacting with them every day, to folks on the outside sometimes. So yeah, I think the thing that is interesting, because like I spoke about, the initiative at the farm wasn't initially started by the college. And I think what that has like created challenges is in the farm itself getting adequate long-term support outside of grants and things like that. So I would say other CUNYs could learn in being intentional about developing these programs. So like having a plan from the outset on how are we going to sustain this? How are we going to bring in and staffing that can offer the expertise to support leadership, to support learning in an environment that's really beneficial to students. And that can look like asking students what they want a growing space to look like. What do they need? What do they see a space looking like, and including them in that process when initiating it? Because I feel like there are CUNY students who, from other colleges, they come to the staff here and the students at the farm asking like, how can we start this? And feeling like they're hitting roadblocks because it can be challenging to pitch that to the administrators, especially if they're just learning how to articulate their thoughts or their ideas. So I think the administration taking the initiative to create a space where students' input will be valued and taken not only into account, but very integral to the development of an urban ag program, or even like a food program that students are going to use. So I would say having a plan from the outset and including students in that process, so that they're learning how to have that leadership. They're learning how these things work in an institution that's very large, oftentimes, and also feel like their thoughts and their opinions are valued in developing these kinds of programs.
Awesome, great. So essentially having them participate in the development process.
Exactly.
Yeah, great.
I would also just add, in terms of as we built our program, finding creative ways and creating interesting spaces for those conversations to happen. You know, the way that we began our program was to host different nights of different types of food activities. And so, you know, the first night was basically making art with food to make sure we got, you know, young kids as young as possible, and essentially doing a kind of finger painting activity. But making sure that each activity, we then had a breakout session where there was this conversation about, what do you see as the challenges to use and access of healthy food? What do you see as the possible solution? So over 3 different nights, we did 3 different activities for 3 different groups of ages. And so, you know, it's not necessarily just sitting down and having a conversation, but trying to be creative and in creating an environment where people are kind of sparked into thinking about this, and then you can give them the opportunity to talk about what their ideas are.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Bill. We have about 15 more minutes left in the forum, and we have tons of questions coming through the chat. So I'm going to go through a few of them. The first question is, this is from Eric Diaz. What has been your standards for home delivered food distribution during COVID-19? Also for preparing food demonstrations and pop-ups. So I'm assuming that's for Bill and maybe for Wendy and Maya, but if anyone else wants to jump in, please feel free.
You know, when we began doing meal delivery in the very beginning of COVID-19, again, it was sort of meeting people where they are, and it really was, we had to identify which center had the capacity to provide youth that felt safe and comfortable participating in a food distribution program. You know, not all our centers really were connected with youth that were willing to do that. So for us, the starting place was making sure that the center that was providing youth for the food distribution activity really made sure that the parents and the youth felt safe about the approach that we were using, and being just, you know, super conscientious about communicating about how it was going to work. So you know, we've done this program at 6 different centers here in NYCHA, but when the food distribution opportunity came up, it was pretty clear from the get-go that there was this one center that really was ready to participate. And that's how we proceeded, just making sure that we knew who was good to go and keeping them safe.
Great.
For me, I would say, well, since COVID, there's been certain things that we just haven't been able to do anymore. I know prior to COVID, we did do a lot of food demonstrations, and that's been on the pause. We personally don't have any home deliveries, although we've considered it before. But right now, we're just having the community come to us, and we're distributing food that way. And we're taking all the precautions. Young people who are helping out, or young adults, they're wearing their masks, their gloves, trying to keep a distance as much as possible.
We've developed a bit of a hybrid model. I'm sorry you couldn't get to see the slides, but first and foremost, always be safe. If you're not being safe, you're being foolish, and no one wants to be a fool. So be safe. The other thing is, we are also putting food in places where people can have access to it on their own. So we have people coming to us and people going and us bringing it to them. At Green Bronx Machine, it was kind of a bit of a triage effect because the need here is so overwhelming. So we targeted 55 in memory of, in commemoration, I should say, of the school that we are based out of, Community School 55, of the most vulnerable families, and then looked at 30 senior citizens within walking distance or to the school who are shut in and recovering from cancer. And we're able to partner with them and Memorial Sloan Kettering. So it has been an absolutely Herculean endeavor, but remarkably, we also look to the capacity within our community, particularly the residents of NYCHA, who really understand what it's like to be besieged by unwelcome forces in their community, whether it's some of the issues of unwanted social determinants of health that persist in the community. And we went around distributing food the same way that some of those unwanted distribution networks happen, by getting a place to keep it, getting children to make out messages, getting signage, posting messages, having a runner, having a lookout, if you will. And literally, I couldn't be more proud of a woman in a wheelchair named Ms. Gwendolyn Primus at the Morrisania houses for feeding 2,300 people a day from a wheelchair. I wanted to show this picture of Brother Mike, people who are out there in wheelchairs who know who need food because they're part of a network. So I always say that your network is your net worth. We are a dramatically small organization. We have one paid employee here at Green Bronx Machine, but we get a whole lot of shiznit done because we look at the power of our community. We look at the power of young people, and activating people around purpose creates a whole new bottom line for everybody, including progress.
Great, thank you all for that. The next question is from Doris Dyer to Maya. Now that school is back in session, are students still able to work on the farm with COVID guidelines?
Yeah, we still have folks on the farm. A lot of our COVID guidelines are like everyone wears a mask, try to keep distance. I mean, one of the bright sides of the farm is that we're outside, and it's a pretty big space, so it's kind of an ideal working environment to have to deal with the pandemic, for lack of a better word. So we do have students still working on the farm, and yeah, when we're harvesting food, we were using gloves, which different farms have different procedures, but we found that using gloves during processing was important, and just very much stressing constant hand washing procedures. Even if you washed your hands if you drop something or whatever, or you have like a itch, make sure we try to create spaciousness that you can take enough breaks if as you need to wash your hands, and not contaminate the food or cause harm to other folks. But yeah, definitely stressing mask wearing, distance, keeping distance, and hand washing. So there's lots of opportunities to wash your hands in soap on the farm because it's important. Yeah. I hope that answers that question, Doris.
The farm is the answer to everything.
So our next question is from Chantel Kemp. And they state, COVID has exposed so many problem areas in our community. How can we engage folks in urban agriculture when they have more immediate concerns plaguing them?
Oh, listen, COVID is the virus that is emblematic of three larger viruses: greed, racism, and corruption. And, for years, the alarms have been going off. And to think that people are now finally saying, ooh, I am woke. But, at the end of the day, food is medicine and medicine is food. And food is the language through which society reveals itself. Who has access to what, where, how, when, and at what price determines everything, including health outcomes. So understand, if you're not feeding yourself, you're killing yourself. I don't know if you lost me or not, but
no, we heard you. We heard you. And anyone else like to chime in?
Well, I'd just say that there's a lot of videos going around right now about how you can grow something on your windowsill.
Right.
I mean, in my house, we've grown sprouts in the past, but I think, just the other day, it was literally a 45-second video about how you can pull seeds out of tomato, how you put them in earth, and how you give them water and light. Baby steps, but just watching that process on your windowsill in your kitchen, you're not going to feed a lot of people, but you're going to be starting to think about food and healthy eating that way.
So the next question we have is from Christina Erskine. What are some of your top tips when it comes to engaging youth during COVID?
Always say welcome. Be inviting, be accessible, be loving, be kind. I say the simple premise behind all that we do here is to treat the children as if they were our own. And if you start at that simple starting point, it really makes a difference. I also think children recognize the real. And what I mean by that is I don't expect every child to be a farmer, but I do expect them to recognize and respect my passion. I think, you meet people like Maya, you meet people like Wendy, and you see the passion that they have for what they do. Children can't help but respect that and be inspired by that. And that's the most important thing, I think, is bringing your best self to all that you do daily.
I would also add to that. I agree with all that. I'd also add asking youth how they feel, like what's going on, what's happening in your life, so that you can relate what you're talking about to what's actually happening in their life. Otherwise you're like, why, because you can bring lots of enthusiasm and I'll definitely bring my energy and happiness, but sometimes if something's going on in someone's life and they're in your class or they're in your workshop and their mind is somewhere else, just checking in can bring them back and help them be a part of that. And I think also having a good sense of humor can be helpful in engaging folks. I have very corny parents, so I have inherited those traits, and I try to not hide them because I think it can engage folks at times. So I would say those things
I think it's also that's a great point, Maya, but also it's important to admit your own vulnerabilities. I'm very good at sharing that, sometimes Mr. Ritz isn't having the best day. This pandemic, if you will, has really created a level of stress, distress, disease, and disease that is absolutely mind-numbing. And, the amount of social emotional needs that our children, everyone here is in a permanent state of PTSD. So, being able to admit that you're vulnerable, creating a culture where it's okay to ask for help. Listen, the children are here because they need help, but some days I need them to help me, and it's okay to empower them to do that, and they kind of feel good about it. I say now more than ever, let compassion be the new curriculum, and let empathy, courage, and resilience guide us. Let those be our North Stars, and together we'll come together.
I love that. That's great. you know, the advice that I would give, a lot of it goes back to our approach in how we establish our community centers, you know, in East Harlem, in NYCHA. And we're really always about, this is not Scan Harbor Center, this is your center. You know, we are here to facilitate and activate and let you be creative, and we're your collaborators and your partners, but it's your center. And when we started our healthy food program, you know, the very beginning, one of the earliest conversations I had, someone asked me, who's in charge of food at SCAN? You know, and just remembering that when we were engaging youth, they're in charge. It's their program. You know, we are here to act and facilitate, to build something that they can own and they can lead. So, you know, just reminding them that the center belongs to the community, not the agency, and the program is something that is going to be developed and grown and sustained by the people at that center. We are just there to make it happen and support and build on their behalf.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for that. So we have about 2 more minutes left in the forum, and there's 2 more questions actually that I think would be super useful if I can find it. Hold on one second. This question is from Haley. What are the ways that the farms you work on create spaces for learning how to connect what's happening on the farm and what's happening in their communities? For example, to police, prison, and racial issues.
I can speak a little to that if no one else wants to. So on the farm here at KCC, a lot of the ways we've done that is like having workshops about topics like Indigenous Peoples Day, or talking about unpacking the prison industrial complex, whether that means if we don't have that workshop or we don't have time for that, we direct students to resources where they can learn more about it, videos that they can watch, films that they can watch. It has been a little challenging not being able to have students on campus to hold events like we've done Food Day the past couple years here at KCC, where we would bring in other speakers to come share with students about topics around the climate crisis, the prison to the school to prison pipeline, and relating that to food and how those systemic issues impact folks' access to food and impact what they see in their communities and have access to. So some of the ways, yeah, we've done that and are, you know, have tried to mimic that virtually is to provide students with the resources if we can't hold those workshops ourselves or have events like that at the campus. But that's what I would say.
Thank you, Maya. Does anyone else have anything to add? Great. So I'm going to go to our last question, and we are a little bit over time. So if you can stay with us, that would be great. But we totally understand that if anyone has to jump out, that's totally fine. So the last question that we have is, how can the city best support youth-led initiatives so that they continue to exist in the long run? What types of policies need to be implemented?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Shay? I just got I just got an emergency ping, so I was distracted. I apologize.
How can the city best support youth-led initiatives so that they can continue to exist in the long run? And what types of policies need to be implemented?
Ooh, who wants to go first?
I'll just start with the word consistency. Through all the dealings with the city, you know, we just need better consistency and predictability. I mean, we know that everybody's improvising right now in terms of developing how we can serve the communities through the city support. But, you know, we know with all our programming, not just healthy food, that the consistency and the ability to continually be there for the kids is what makes the best outcomes. And so we just look for that in our partners.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, I was going to say just a general, distributing power to young people. I know that a lot of the time it's always like adults, trying to be at the forefront and taking leadership skills, but young people have so much potential. They have so much to offer. So I think just having adults support young people along the way, providing them consistent mentorship is going to be super crucial in supporting youth-led initiatives. So much of what Bill Fink's saying, consistency is so key. And then overall, when it comes to policies, the election now, I just thinking about voting, like you have to get there and vote and have your word out. Don't just sit back and expect things to change. I would say that in addition to that, I talked about mentorship. I talked about that. Sorry, it slipped my mind, but that's what I'll say for now.
Don't ever underestimate the power of youth. Fast food scaled with the Happy Meal. It was the mommy factor. My parents stopped smoking, not because the Surgeon General told them to, and not because cancer was going to kill them, but because my brother and I made them nuts. So empowering children to be vocal, to be articulate, to ask for help really makes a difference. And then the other thing is, let's start moving away from philanthropy, because philanthropy will send a whole bunch of bottles of water to Michigan. But policy will make sure that those pipes are fixed forever and that people who violate clean water will be sent to jail. So the next generation of children who are empowered to vote, to be change makers, to disrupt the system, to persevere, to be resilient, and to advocate will be the change that we all need.
I would add that policies that would be important, I think, in considering not only cultivating leadership in young adults and food system workers, but also a lot of the issues that we see coming up with students is issues with housing and grocery stores that have healthy food in their neighborhoods. So I would say policies that are integrating planning, those resources being a part of the neighborhoods, making sure that people have houses or apartments that have kitchens that work, that have, a place that they know they're going to be able to live long term, because a lot of times a lot of our students are struggling with housing just as a basic need. And, we can teach them how to cook and we can teach them how to grow food, but if they don't have a space of their own to do those things, it's going to be really hard for them to carry that on into their everyday life. So policies around housing and neighborhood resources, I think, are what's really important in uplifting all of our work, as well as the work of the students or young adults and youth that we are really passionate about supporting.
Great, thank you, everyone. And Stephen, I love what you said about policy. It brings about the sustainable change. Someone can donate and be a philanthropist, but it's the policy that brings about the sustainable change. And I love that. I hope that everyone enjoyed this forum. We really enjoyed having you all here with us today. Thanks again to our amazing guest speakers. You brought so much information and so much light to this topic, and it was a joy having you all speak about your awesome work. We're going to send out follow-up with everyone's information, so feel free to look out for that. And I do want to apologize, Stephen, again for the technical difficulties. We know that you worked really hard on your slides, so if you do want to show them now, please feel free to show them. But if not, we'll include them with the follow-up email so that everyone can take a look at it.
No, I'll get them to you. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. I want to invite Bill up here to come cook with his kids in our kitchen. Wendy, I want to say, listen, I learned how to farm at your site long before you could probably identify the 10 vegetables that go out in your bags daily. So God bless you. And Maya, I hope to bring some of my students who are aspirational young farmers out to the beautiful Queens. By all means, farm. And remember, everybody, education, not asphyxiation. Si se puede.
Yes, awesome.
Give my love to Nando.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We hope that you have an awesome day, and we hope to see you at our next forum. Take care.